Okay, so I know I'm supposed to start with introducing myself, then get into the main body of the story, but just bear with me for a few minutes because before I do, I just have one thing to say, followed by a number of other things I'm going to say, but I promise it will all come together. Okay, from my, as you'll soon learn, hard earned experience, all good movies, with the exception of one genre, have the exact same theme: identity. The reason you're watching this period of a character's life instead of the myriad other periods of a character's life is that this is the period that evokes some form of self awareness. The reason good movies are about identity is that finding out who we are in the course of difficult circumstances is pretty much universal. In my observation, there are two types of identity themes: action proves character, and action transforms character. To go old school, the Bourne movies, in which Matt Damon's character stayed the same in the face of an increasingly volatile situation, is an example of the former. For an example of the latter, we'll turn to my favorite Hollywood subgenre, the cancer kook movie. The mother of all cancer kook movies is Love Story, though they all play out in the exact same way. Basically, a rich, though empty and miserable man who lives in Grey World, generally meaning advertising, meets a wackadoodle who turns his Grey World upside down and shows him what it means to live before she unexpectedly dies of cancer. Initially, Grey World Man is turned off by Winona and her loony pipe cleaner hats, or Allie and her blue collar ways, or Charlize and her crazy driving. But through the vagaries of plot, winds up spending more and more time with her, becoming freer and freer, falling truly, deeply in love. At which point, Winona or Charlize or Allie begin to show the first symptoms of cancer, meaning they start wearing gloves with the fingers cut off and stop wearing lip gloss. The cancer kook tries to hide her illness instead of discussing it with Richard or Ryan or Keanu, picking breakup fights, then indulging in what friends and I call sweater acting. Why are you behaving this way? Can't you just leave me alone? Eventually, he finds out the truth, usually by opening a linen closet and discovering it's filled floor to ceiling with pills. He rushes to her hospital bed, where she is as colorless as his life was prior to meeting her, though maintaining her indomitable spirit despite the tubing and head bandages. He then says something simultaneously passive aggressive and codependent, like, "You've ruined me for all women." At which point she not so much dies as expires. We then see, to Enya, a montage of her most carefree moments, Winona with a bunch of her bohemian friends all wearing her nutty hats, Charlize doing cartwheels down the beach while being chased by four poodles, Allie pulling up in an old jalopy, "Hey, preppy." Later, we see Richard or Ryan or Keanu, pensive, staring into nature, wearing khakis and a baggy sweatshirt. Finally, thanks to the wacky girl who died, living in full color. Look, lack of identity theme is the reason most sequels are really bad. The lead got wherever he or she was going in the first film, and the writer simply left them there for subsequent films. In The Matrix, Keanu Reeves was literally in a life or death identity crisis. The only thing that allowed him to conquer the Matrix and overcome those agents in suits was finding out who he truly was. In the sequel, Matrix Reloaded, by contrast, Keanu Reeves started as a self-aware hero, leaving him nowhere to go and making the movie totally unwatchable. Oh yeah, the only genre in which good films aren't explicitly about identity is the black comedy, the whole idea of which is that the audience understands something about the characters that the characters never understand about themselves. But what is identity? Mathematicians talk about finding God in math because they struggle with whether math is something we've discovered or something we've invented. If it's something we're discovering, like the cosmos or the atom, then what is it? A force? A physical property? What exactly are we discovering? And if it's something we've invented, then how is it that mathematical formulas contrived hundreds of years ago accurately describe physical realities only discovered relatively recently? Or like this: the Earth revolves around the sun in, on average, 365 days. Physical reality. And a day is, of course, just a demarcation of the Earth's rotation on its own axis. Another physical reality. 365 is also 10 squared plus 11 squared plus 12 squared. So is that just some kind of cocktail party worthy coincidental byproduct of a system we've invented? Or have we discovered something meaningful about summing sequential squares and averages of how planets settle into orbit? And what about identity? Is that something we discover or something we invent? The point of all this is that this too is about identity, and hopefully won't turn out to be a black comedy. My name is Matt Prager, and my identity theme is of the action transforms character type. I worked in Hollywood for 15 years, and the time frame over which my identity theme played out was during my years as a studio executive for HBO, specifically during the time I was working on a film called Breast Men. This is a coming of age story, only the age was 31, and it was a long time coming.
What